Okay, the one thing that you should all remember from GCSE is that plant cells have a cellulose cell wall around the outside. So technically, I suppose, the cell wall isn't an organelle. An organelle is inside a cell, but this is clearly outside of the cell and surrounding the cell membrane, so not technically an organelle. Cell walls made of cellulose fibres, and we need to know that the cellulose fibres have got those hydrogen bonds between the adjacent chains, that it's straight chains, they're linked into microfibrils, then fibrils, and they're laid down at all sorts of other angles and being fully permeable. If we looked at a cell wall in detail, we would see that it is a bit more complicated than that, and there are actually gaps in the cell wall to facilitate transport between cells, and those gaps are called plasmodesmata. One would be a plasmodesma, lots of them are plasmodesmata. So we can see on this electron micrograph, that we've got plasma membrane. This bit in the middle is the cell wall. This sort of grey stripe down the middle is something called the middle lamella, which kind of is like the cement between two bricks, I suppose. It sort of glues them together. And then we've got the cell membrane appears to go round like that, leaving a gap in between. So the cytoplasm is actually continuous, so I could kind of colour in the cytoplasm in a lovely contrasting colour. I think I'll use blue. And the cytoplasm kind of goes all the way through that gap. So they're actually, each plant cell is connected to another one. So here we've got sort of plant cell 1, plant cell 2, cellulose, middle lamella, cellulose, cell membrane, and we've got this gap that connects the two things together. So what that allows to happen is, if we look at this sort of diagrammy thing over here, is that it sort of facilitates, it makes the transport of things between the cytoplasm of one cell and the cytoplasm of another much easier, because it doesn't have to go across the cell membrane, things don't have to go across the cell membrane, then cross the cell wall, then cross the middle lamella, then cross another cell wall, then cross another cell membrane. Instead, you can just scoot straight through that cytoplasmic connection from one cell to another. We'll come across this idea again when we do plant transport. It's one of the ways in which water can move between cells, so it can just diffuse straight through the cytoplasm, and it's thought to be involved in other types of plant transport like sucrose. So effectively a sieve plate in a flown tube is just a big plasmodesma really. So facilitates transport between cells, only found in the cell walls, counts as an organelle because it's got cytoplasm running through it, so it's actually part of the cell rather than surrounding the cell.